Have you ever wondered if you might have already crossed paths with your soulmate without even realizing it? Many people expect love to arrive with intense emotions, clear signs, or cinematic moments. But according to the Bible, God rarely works that way. He works in silence, with purpose, and in perfect timing. Most of us were taught to expect love as an explosive event, a sweeping passion, instant chemistry, an almost supernatural feeling. But what if the love that comes from God doesn't follow that script? C.S. Lewis wrote something profound in his book, The Four Loves. Love is not uncontrolled affection, but a firm decision to seek the good of the other, no matter the cost. That changes everything, because from this perspective, true love doesn't begin with a thrill, it begins with alignment. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for someone to appear to complete them, when in fact, God is waiting for them to be whole. And here is a truth few people say: God rarely presents your soulmate when you are desperate for love. He does it when you are being shaped to sustain a covenant. Maybe you are living exactly in this phase right now. Nothing seems to move forward. Relationships don't flow. Connections break without explanation. And as contradictory as it may seem, this is not rejection. It is preparation. Imagine someone trying to build a house on unstable ground. No matter how beautiful it is, sooner or later everything collapses. God does not build eternal relationships on cracked emotional foundations. Before uniting two stories, He strengthens each one separately. That's why, many times, the season before love feels lonely. You begin to face old wounds. Memories you thought were healed resurface. Insecurities appear. But this is not regression. It is God turning over the soil of your heart. Think of something simple from everyday life. When a doctor treats a deep wound, he first cleans it, removes what is infected, even if it causes discomfort. Only then does healing come. God does the same with the soul. He touches where it hurts, not to punish, but to heal. The Bible shows this clearly. Before Eve appeared, Adam was already positioned in the garden, working, naming, and living with purpose. He was not incomplete. He was prepared. Eve did not come to save him from emotional loneliness, but to walk with him in mission. C.S. Lewis also warned, to turn someone into the solution for the emptiness of the soul is the beginning of idolatry. When we place on another person the weight that only God can carry, the relationship is born destined for frustration. Maybe today you are asking, so why hasn't anyone come? The right question is not who hasn't arrived yet, but who you are becoming while you wait. God does not delay promises, He matures people. And when you understand this, waiting stops being a punishment and becomes training. Next, we are going to talk about something even more intriguing: how God crosses paths in ways that seem ordinary, but are eternally strategic, encounters that look like chance, but are pure providence. There is an uncomfortable but liberating truth. God rarely presents your soulmate in the way you imagine. He does not usually use cinematic scenarios. Most of the time He uses routines, repeated paths, ordinary days, places you almost ignore. This is where many people get confused. You expect something intense, and God delivers something aligned. You expect a thrill, and God delivers direction. You expect external signs, and God works behind the scenes. The Bible is full of this pattern. Ruth did not wake up saying, "Today I will meet the man of my life." She simply decided to be faithful, to work, and to serve. And the biblical text says something curious. By chance, she entered Boaz's field. But there is no chance when God is writing the story. Sometimes the encounter comes as a persistent whisper, a simple conversation that stays on your mind, a person who appears at an unlikely moment, an environment you almost declined and then decide to go to. And here is an essential point. God does not connect people who are emotionally stagnant. He connects people who are in motion. Ruth was in motion, serving and walking in faithfulness. And it is in this flow that heaven begins to align destinies. This explains why, many times, love does not arise when you are desperately searching, but when you are busy living out your purpose. How many times did you almost not go to that place? Almost not accept that invitation? Almost give up that routine? And what if the almost was exactly where you stepped out of the field of encounter? The Psalms remind us that the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. Notice the word steps. God directs those who walk, those who move, those who obey even without understanding everything. Here is an everyday example. Think of someone who changes their route to work for a simple reason: traffic, delay, fatigue. And on that new path, they meet someone who completely changes their story. To the world, coincidence. To God, precision. The problem is that many people are so stuck on the idea of when and how that they ignore the where. God has already placed them. C.S. Lewis also wrote something powerful. To trust God means to look at the present with obedience, not at the future with anxiety. Maybe the person God is preparing for you is not in the distant future, but in an environment you already frequent. Maybe it is not someone who causes immediate impact, but someone who brings consistent peace. And this confronts us. Would you recognize your soulmate if they did not come wrapped in emotional expectation, but in spiritual compatibility? Divine relationships rarely begin intense. They begin stable, not with uncontrolled fire, but with a flame that does not easily go out. If you feel like nothing is happening, maybe everything is already in motion. God does not need your rush to align destinies. He needs your availability. So keep going, keep serving, keep obeying, because the field you are in today may be exactly where favor will find you tomorrow. There is a silent pattern in relationships that are orchestrated by God. They do not just warm the heart, they awaken the spirit. Unlike fleeting passions, which begin intense and end empty, the love that comes from heaven grows over time and strengthens what truly matters. C.S. Lewis wrote something extremely revealing in Mere Christianity. Love is not what makes us feel good, but what makes us better. This phrase directly confronts the modern mindset. Today, many people evaluate relationships by how much they feel, not by how much they grow. But God evaluates the opposite, how much that bond leads you to truth, maturity, and eternity. When God presents your soulmate, you notice something different right from the beginning, and it is not confusion, but clarity, not anxiety, but peace, not emotional games, but security. This does not mean the absence of challenges, but it does mean the presence of direction. Think of Rebecca and Isaac. The Bible does not describe a romance full of drama, but a union built on prayer and obedience. Even before Isaac met Rebecca, someone was already praying for that connection. That is powerful. Relationships aligned with God are usually born first in the spiritual realm, before manifesting in the natural. Now compare this with something common today. How many people enter relationships expecting the other person to heal them, motivate them, or save them from emptiness? The problem is that no one can take God's place without breaking under the weight of that expectation. A love sent by God does not require you to hide your faith. It does not ask you to silence your values. It does not put you in situations where you have to negotiate your conscience just to keep someone close. On the contrary, it encourages you to be who you truly are in Christ. The Bible asks, can two walk together unless they are agreed? This agreement isn't just about tastes, dreams, or personality. It's about spiritual direction. C.S. Lewis also gave a profound warning. When we place a human love at the absolute center of life, it becomes a tyrant. And how often does this happen? People start well, but little by little, they drift from faith. Their devotion wanes, and they abandon what once was a priority. This isn't love. It's a distraction disguised as affection. Now, here's a clear sign of divine alignment. When being with someone makes you want to pray more, not less. When talking with that person strengthens your hope, not your insecurity. When your plans together include purpose, not just pleasure. The right relationships don't drain your spiritual energy. They renew it. They don't extinguish your fire. They feed it. As Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Maybe you're asking yourself right now, so why do my relationships always leave me weaker? Perhaps it's because they weren't built to walk alongside you, but only to satisfy a moment. And here's a liberating truth. Not every love that excites comes from God, but every love that comes from God edifies. If this is speaking to you, comment something simple. I want a love that brings me closer to God. This kind of declaration is more powerful than it seems. Next, we're going to touch on something sensitive but extremely necessary. How God uses external confirmations and spiritual authority to protect us from wrong choices, even when our emotions try to convince us otherwise. Before we move forward, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Listen with an open heart, because what we're about to talk about has already saved many people from pains that looked like love but were emotional traps. If you've ever ignored counsel because of strong feelings, this topic is for you. There's a spiritual principle that almost no one likes to hear. God rarely confirms something important only through our emotions, not because feelings are bad, but because they're unstable. Today they're high, tomorrow they collapse. That's why, when God truly ordains a relationship, He doesn't leave confirmation isolated. He spreads signs through voices you can't manipulate. The Bible is clear. In the multitude of counselors there is safety. This isn't limitation, it's protection. Relationships that come from God can withstand the light. They don't need to be hidden, defended with anger, or sustained only by emotional justifications. When something is from God, it remains firm even when it passes through the filter of wisdom. Look at Boaz. Before taking Ruth as his wife, he didn't act on impulse. He brought the situation to the city gate, before the elders, before authority. This teaches us something profound. Spiritual covenants don't run from confirmation, they seek it. C.S. Lewis wrote something extremely revealing. Obedience is not the enemy of love. It is its foundation. Today, many people call love what cannot endure correction. If someone reacts with irritation when you seek spiritual counsel, that isn't passion, it's insecurity disguised. Now think with me about something very everyday. Imagine someone about to make a major financial investment. What's wiser, listening only to the enthusiasm of the moment, or consulting someone experienced? In love, the principle is the same, but the consequences are much deeper. God uses spiritual parents, mature leaders, and spirit-filled friends, not to control your life, but to confirm or warn. And here's a sensitive point. The enemy can imitate feelings, but he can't sustain collective discernment for long. When several godly people feel uneasiness about a relationship, that's not persecution, it's mercy. Likewise, when there is consistent peace among people who walk with God, that's strong evidence of alignment. And notice something important. God will never rush you into something that requires wisdom. Hurry almost always comes from the fear of losing. God doesn't work with fear, he works with trust. C.S. Lewis also warned, haste is often the disguise of spiritual selfishness. How many people enter relationships saying, I know God sent this, but can't explain it without relying only on intense emotions. Relationships sent by God don't need to be defended with desperation. They are sustained by peace. And here's a liberating truth. When something is from God, you don't need to fight to convince others. Time, fruit, and maturity speak for themselves. Maybe you're in a dilemma right now. Your heart wants it, but wise voices hesitate. Or maybe the opposite. You're afraid, but mature people see something good that you can't yet see. In both cases, the question is not what do I feel, but where is the peace of God? Because the peace of God doesn't shout, it governs. If this part spoke to you, write in the comments, I choose wisdom, not haste. This helps more people hear this message and may be exactly what someone needed today. Next, we're going to tie everything together with a powerful truth. Waiting is not the end of the story. It's the chapter where God writes the most important details. Don't leave now. The ending will speak directly to those who have already thought about giving up on love. If you've made it this far, I want you to know something very important. This was not by chance. So before anything else, write in the comments, God is still writing my story. And if this content has spoken to you, like the video and subscribe to the C.S. Lewis Mastery channel. Because here we don't talk about shallow love. We talk about eternal love, with purpose and direction. There's a silent moment in the life of almost every Christian when the question arises, even if it's not spoken out loud, what if this never happens for me? What if love isn't part of my story? These thoughts usually appear at night, when everything is quiet. When social media shows weddings, announcements, happy photos, when the heart compares, grows tired, and begins to doubt. But here is the truth that changes everything. God never delays promises. He deepens people. C.S. Lewis wrote something that seems simple but is devastatingly profound. God does not work to make us comfortable, but to make us complete. Waiting is not a punishment, it's a forge. It's the place where God removes illusions, strengthens roots, and adjusts expectations. Because the love he prepares is not fragile. It's not born to last a season, it's born to last a lifetime. Maybe you're in this phase right now, where nothing seems to be happening externally, but everything is being rearranged internally, where God is more interested in who you are becoming than in who you will meet. And here's something liberating. Your story isn't measured by time, but by the faithfulness of God. The Bible is full of people who thought time had passed them by. Abraham, Sarah, Ruth, and Hannah. All of them lived through silence before fulfillment. But God's silence was never absence. It was always preparation. And when God finally connects to hearts, he doesn't just unite feelings, he unites callings, he unites purposes, he unites destinies. You will not need to chase, you will not need to beg, You will not need to diminish yourself to fit into someone's life. When it's from God, it will be light, it will be clear, and it will be safe. And above all, it will bring peace. C.S. Lewis reminds us, faith teaches us to walk, even when we cannot see the whole path. Maybe today you can only see one step, and that's enough. Because God doesn't reveal the whole chapter. He reveals the next verse. So keep trusting, keep healing, keep serving, keep walking. Because the love that comes from God doesn't arrive to fill a void, but to walk alongside someone who has already learned to rest in Him. And when that encounter happens, because it will happen at the right time, you will realize that nothing was lost. No tear was wasted. No waiting was in vain. Everything was part of the construction of something greater than you imagined. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who is also waiting. Sometimes, God uses a video to rekindle a hope that was almost fading. Thank you for watching this video. We ask that you subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, activate the notification bell to be notified about our posts. See you in the next video. And remember, the best chapter is still to come.